This is Punch Drunk Philosophy.
Regardless, weight cutting. It's been a big issue in MMA lately. Obviously, decimating a UFC pay-per-view with UFC 177 and Barão having to he passed out and whacked his head. And he said he cuts 10 kilos, 22 pounds. Joe Rogan made the good point of saying, how is it fine if you're passing out during weight cutting? Because it's not. And it's quite obviously with the death recently of a Nova Arnya guy competing on a Shoto event, this is getting quite serious. So our medical expert Tony has come on the show to talk to us about weight cutting. Tony, what do you think about the weight cutting issue in MMA today? I mean, how serious is it, and what really should be done in terms of safety for the fighters, and what are they risking?
Well, it's, as public, we're kind of misinformed. It's coming to light in the media these days, but this has been a problem that's been going on, since, the world's oldest sport, wrestling. That's the biggest thing with it. There have been deaths. I remember when I was in undergrad taking a course, and our professor, it was psychology or something to do with sports psychology, some bullshit class I had to take that was, I knew it was going to be an A, but Sports Illustrated ran a story, and I actually looked it up just to I'm going to give you a little excerpt from it that's, had to do with wrestling. It was in 2007, or no, not 2007, I'm sorry, 1997. And here's what it said. The opening lines were kind of chilling. It says, he died crawling to the scale, glassy-eyed and pale, his legs too weak to hold him after he had shed nearly 17 pounds in 3 days. Jeff Reese collapsed and expired on the cold floor of a locker room in Chrysler Arena on December 9th in Ann Arbor. That right there back then gave me chills. It gives me chills now. These were collegiate wrestlers. There was an epidemic. He was the third wrestler to die within 33 days. Misinformation, miseducation is a big cause of all this. It's unfortunately, weight cutting's not going away. Obviously, if you're a bigger fighter, you're going to want to get that advantage. So if you have to cut 20, 30 pounds, to make weight, you're going to have that power. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I was fascinated doing research on this and just going through the internet, watching some videos of all these self-proclaimed medical experts that are out there giving these so-called safe ways to cut weight. Is there a safe, weight cutting? Sure, but the way these athletes are doing it is unhealthy. Ideally, you want to cut 1 pound a week safely. Is that going to happen? Hell no. Some people do it, they do it better, than others. I know Anderson Silva's pretty good about it. Usually 9-10 pounds he has to cut, which is still a lot, but it's not like these 20-30 pounds guys are doing it. The methods are pretty erratic. I'm just floored at some of these experts that are saying this is safe, this is not going to be an issue, and sitting in a bath of Epsom salts for hours is harmless. No, none of this is harmless, unfortunately. Anytime we're restricting water to the body, any kind of hydration and food is at a rapid pace is not good. We just had that death where the guy dropped dead from a stroke. People aren't realizing that, not only are you getting dehydrated, but, combo with this dehydration is the lack of sodium, potassium, any other electrolytes in your body. All these electrolytes affect your heart. And I referred to it on the last show I was on about concussions with the gated channels. I'm not going to go into that again, but when you have an imbalance, your body's going to be all out of whack. And again, as a protection mechanism, they want to shut down. I don't know what the best way would be to solve this. I would think maybe having the athletic commissions need to take a stand in this. Maybe have, medical personnel in camp with the fighters and doing, required mandatory tests and checking their vitals and checking, doing their lab work. Yes, it's going to be, costly. It's going to be, inclusive. It's going to piss off the fighters. It's going to piss off the fight camp. But, I mean, what's it going to take? I can almost guarantee if this keeps going on, we're going to see, unfortunately, more, fatalities as we've seen in Brazil. It also should be noted that the fighter that passed away in Brazil was taking a diuretic Lasix. And, Lasix, I mean, a diuretic is what it is. You're going to lose water. The problem is it's the type of diuretic. It gets rid of everything. There's different types of diuretics. This one gets rid of your potassium, and that's essentially what happened. Almost an overdosage of Lasix. It's not really, there's never really been a documented overdosage of something like Lasix, but when you're taking multiple amounts, they haven't said, unless you guys have seen it, they haven't really said how much was in his system, or because there's really no way to test for that. It's tough. Those diuretics are banned, but you know how it is. I mean, the fight game, you're going to do what it takes to win. My suggestion personally, like I was saying, is to maybe bring in a medical team. Not necessarily that the camp has to provide. I would say it would have to be from the athletic commission. I mean, they have medical personnel on board, and send a representative out. Just draw, have them take, just a drop of blood, have it tested, do their basic vitals, their blood pressure, heart rate, whatnot, and see how they're doing. Again, though, the question is, well, they're going to get around that too. They're going to do, their training camps where they're training. It's going to come financial issues, and it's going to be a whole mess. There's never going to be an easy way to do it. My suggestion would be to have that going on. Like I said, it's not very safe. The methods are quite remarkable, what everybody will do. Everything from a sauna to, the Epsom salts bath to rubbing alcohol, laxatives, and
IVs.
IVs, which, who's giving these IVs is what I want to know. And it's just amazing. Just even, chewing tobacco so they spit. Some people are that desperate where they're spitting. Is that gonna? Yeah. People will actually chew. They'll chew for days, and it's unbelievable. But if you go online, you could see some interesting things, especially on YouTube. There's this one doctor out of Canada, and I had to look up his credentials because he was sitting there with this fighter, and it was like a 3-step process, and he was talking about the Epsom salts bath, and the guy was in scalding water and, losing the weight. He said, this is going to drop, 5 pounds or something like that. And then he got out of there, and then he's in the room with his blankets and towels on and all that, which, it seemed okay, but just the way this guy was talking about it, he said, this is completely safe. Right there, that to me, you don't make a claim like that. Anytime you're starving yourself and you're forcing yourself into extreme weight loss is not safe.
That's fucking terrifying.
It's unbelievable. And then there was another guy that was on. He's called the MMA Professor. I urge anybody to look at this guy and watch him on YouTube. He's got his little series thing. He's wearing his tap-out hat and his pride shirt, so he must be legit. So, he's sitting there in his basement, his parents' basement or whatever, talking. And he was bringing up some good points at the beginning of the video on weight cutting, just saying how, it's always going to happen and things. He says that it's an art form. I'm actually going to ask you guys, do you think weight cutting is part of the athletic process? Do you think it makes you a better athlete if you do a proper weight cut? I want to hear what you guys have to say on this. I have an opinion on it too, but let's hear what both of you have to say on that.
Somewhat to an extent. If you can do it kind of fairly safely. I notoriously against weight cutting myself. I've only ever tried to do it once, and I never made it to the event. Because I entered into a competition that was 80 kilograms, 70 kilograms, 60 kilograms. I weighed in at 73. and that was with all my clothes on. I just didn't give a fuck. I think people should fight bigger guys. I know, obviously, I'm fighting at a different level, and I'm a bit insane. And I tried to cut weight for the thing after, and I was taking something called Thermobol. And then I had my concussion, and obviously that escalated it with the obviously the lack of hydration. It just, I don't know. I see, especially really high level weight cutting, when you get to like T-Bow-esque, when it's just taking the piss, and I think that's kind of some type of cheating. It's when it's that level, and I don't. It's for the same reason we don't allow PEDs. I don't think you should have to destroy your body in order to just remain competitive in this sport. I really don't want to see that happen. Because if you, and I don't think it helps really. And I think we're starting to see guys who cut too much weight, like Nate Marquardt, Rumble Johnson, and moving back up, they're going to get better. And I think you can do better at a high weight class. So I'm hoping that's going to start taking more effect, and guys who aren't cutting so much more weight manage to pull off wins. I don't like it so much as a part of the sport. I can see, like, you know, just sort of like managing your diet quite well in order to get down, and maybe do a slight water weight cut. But that's as far as I would ever go. No, none of these crazy levels. I don't know how to combat it. Maybe some regulations of how much weight you're allowed to cut, as in like you get weighed a week before. But the thing is, like, a lot of these, if you had like same day weigh-in, so many people would miss weight.
Oh yeah.
And that would cancel so many fights, and people would get so pissed off. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, Chaz, what do you think?
Well, I mean, my general idea is just sort of everyone's different. And it's kind of the argument like, how much are you taking away from that person's, I don't want to use the word liberty because that sounds way too strong, but like on their right to do whatever they want as an athlete, if you're telling them, you know, not to do something. But for the same reasons that steroids are illegal, like you said, steroids are illegal because they're known to be unsafe. And it would be wrong to expect everyone to live up to standards in which are unsafe. So the way you deal with it is you make it, you know, illegal to use them, and anyone who does is a cheat. Now, I don't see why you can't do the same things for weight cutting, but I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I don't really know the evidence, and I don't really know how many things people are in danger of. And I mean, there's just so many questions that I would still need to be answered. And I mean, Tony's doing that. He's in the process of doing it right now. But I mean, I'd want to know things like, is it actually okay to be weight cutting to the point where you fall over? Because I mean, we saw Jacob Volkman do this. He fell over on his way to deny some room service, and he came back and won the fight by unanimous decision. So I mean, is there a scenario in which it is okay to be unconscious and still compete? Because in my opinion, if you're going unconscious, you're in danger of hitting your head, and so it's unsafe. So I would argue that it should be against the law to cut, well, not the law, but I mean against the rules of the game, to be cutting weight to the point to which you become lightheaded. Do you see what I mean? Because I mean, if you're going to do it a little bit, you might as well do it a lot. And you might as well just say, yeah, we just need to keep everyone safe. And the way to keep everyone safe is to make sure they're not falling over, because as we know, people spend a lot of their times in bathtubs when they're losing weight because of all the salts and all the baths they take and all this stuff. And you don't want people falling over in bathrooms.
Sure.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered in terms of. I mean, I'd like to hear some people on the other side of it first, but I don't know if you know, as you're suggesting, these are just doctors who are in the pockets of the fighters, essentially.
It's fucking crooks.
Yeah. I mean, I would be happy with, as Adam said, doing the week before the fight drug test and also do a weighing.
Yeah.
And I'd just use it as research. And then we will know. If we start weighing people on the Mondays before fights, just take a note of it. Don't make any rules, but just have a look at what's going on. And then we'll go from there.
Right. And you know, to answer that question, it's never okay when a person goes unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
It's. I mean, your body's shutting down, and our bodies are very complex mechanisms. When something goes wrong, it protects. We have a self-protection mechanism, and essentially, it's the body's blacking out because it wants to slow everything down and it wants to recover. And people don't understand like how dangerous this really is. Even with me talking, people are still not going to understand. You have so many different metabolic processes that go through your body, and it just does not affect, okay, my consciousness. I was lightheaded, my blood pressure may have been low. Okay, sure, but then it's also working on your blood system. Your blood obviously fuels your whole body. So now you're thinking about organ damage too. Your kidneys would be the first thing that we would have to worry about. You're taxing them. You're getting your body, you're tricking it. Like, I've been reading a lot of the weight cutting scenarios and how they're introducing the water. They'll start off with 2 to 3 gallons of water a day, and then they'll decrease it because the body's used to it, so it's going to excrete that. It's sending signals to your kidneys. Your kidneys are going to become overworked, and then, you're also excreting all these electrolytes. That's going to trickle down to things like your blood sugar. So here's your pancreas got involved now. Along with any other organs in your body, including your brain. And a lot of the things, the passing out, the strokes, that's your brain. Your brain matter is going to increase. The gray and white actually increases a little bit. Also, I thought this was pretty comical. The professor that I talked about before said that when you're dehydrating yourself, you're losing cerebral spinal fluid. He's an idiot. The only way you're I'll call him out right now. I don't know what he does for a living, but
let's get him on.
Enough, man. You can't lose cerebral spinal fluid from dehydration. It's not. It's a blood thing, and actually, they said that the cerebral spinal fluid actually increases during dehydration. It's through the blood. It's not. And I was incorrect. The gray matter and white matter, I think I said increase, they decrease during dehydration. That's my bad. But yeah, he was saying that, and I'm thinking, I'm like, so then I actually had to check my own references to make sure that he heard something new, but no, and so he said, yeah, that's why you can get concussions when you're dehydrated. So, and I'm sitting there going, what? Like, unless you have a tear in your, in the dura mater of the brain, you're not going to leak the cerebral spinal fluid. And I'm pretty sure if you're doing that, you're not going to make it to weigh-ins anyway. You're going to be in the emergency room. So, yeah, this weight cutting thing is sad. It's been going on since the dawn of time. Who knows what other techniques people are doing? And it's there's the ones that don't harm yourself, like say shaving your legs and stuff. Like, okay, that's not going to hurt you, but is that really going to make a difference? No. We're talking about the people that are in the saunas and wearing bodysuits and on the bike, and I just look back to that 1997 article, and our collegiate, the NCAA, actually made some changes to their wrestling program, and they banned all these different things, including training in a room hotter than 80 degrees, banning self-induced vomiting, banning extensive food or fluid restrictions.
Self-induced vomiting? Yeah,
self-induced. That's another one, too.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. The NCAA, maybe this is. NCAA also requires hydration tests, body fat checks, and they restrict the amount of weight that can be lost. So maybe mixed martial arts could take a page out of the NCAA for collegiate. I don't really know. I haven't looked up the stats on the wrestling issue since then, like how the weight cutting's gone. But that's a good step. I mean, how are you going to really regulate somebody training in a room hotter than 80 degrees in MMA? I don't know. Or self-induced vomiting. How do you really regulate that? Unless you're do it right in front of somebody.
I hope they would just not do it. I mean, fucking
You
hell.
could follow them to the door like George Costanza in that episode of Seinfeld.
Yeah.
That's one way you could do it. But yeah, that's just ridiculous.
The hydration tests might be something that they could look into. Again, the politicians are going to be, it's pockets, money. It's going to go back to money. But, I mean, how much is it going to cost again? It's going back to concussion thing, too, we need the safety first. The weight classes are going to be there. I'm all for, like, a medical personnel, like, doing little tests on them. I mean, if I was a professional fighter and having the education that I do, I would not want to put my body through that. It's not, and we don't know the long-term ramifications either. That's another study that, I'm all about that. If anybody wants to give me a grant to do that, I'm in. But long-term ramifications, we don't know what kind of damage it's going to do to some of these athletes when they're older. The concussion thing concussions have been around for a while, and we talked about that. And, the stories are, and studies are coming up now about the fighters engaged in stuff. Now, what's going to happen with these fighters and wrestlers that have been weight cutting their whole careers? Sure, once or twice is not going to be a big deal, but you do it enough times, there's going to be irreversible organ damage. I don't care if, okay, he's okay, he made the fight, he won his fight, he dropped 20 pounds. Okay, well, he just did it again, and now, his career, he's had 30 fights in his career. He has to cut weight all the time, especially some of these people that have to, like you said, like Rumble and people like
Gleison Tebow.
Gleison Tebow especially, which is, there's no way that's unbelievable how much weight in one day. Then there's always the case of, somebody like Mike Dolce. Maybe we need more people like him. He focuses on nutrition more than anything. And, I don't know. I'm not in the inner circle of that. I don't know if he does other things, but I know that's the guy they call for the weight cuts.
He's anti-diuretics and stuff. I know that.
What's that?
He's anti the use of diuretics and pills and anything that's not, with apostrophes, natural. Right.
And that's the thing, and a lot of those, those diuretics are all banned anyway. But it also comes out some of these natural products like dandelion root. A lot of people take that. It's a natural diuretic. It's not safe either, and that's why we have to be wary of the term natural.
That's exactly why I put it in apostrophes.
Yeah. And natural products, probably for another day, one of the most natural products is illegal in the United States, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
That's a whole other debate. It is what it is. There's a lot of natural things, and that one doctor that was the so-called doctor, or whatever he was a naturopathic doctor. And not that I'm against all that, because there is some good with it, but for him to go over and say, well, this is all natural, this is safe. No, it's you cannot make those claims.
So it's rattlesnake venom.
Yeah, you can't make those claims. It's not. There's nothing natural about it. You think about it, it takes 3,500 calories to lose 1 pound of fat. Some people, that's a day's worth of nutrition right there. And think about somebody doing that and has to cut 20 of those. Do 20 pounds in one day. That's insane. That's like not eating for 20 days.
And then having to go into a fight in a cage the day after.
Right.
These people are crazy.
and let's not forget, as soon as they're off the scales, they're rehydrating and they're fueling up. That's not good either. We often look at the problematic of the weight cutting, but then it's reintroducing all this stuff in a short period of time. You've just essentially turned your body down. And again, this goes in hand with your blood sugar. Your blood sugar is non-existent. Then you throw all this crap in you, and not all this crap. You throw Gatorade and stuff. What do you think is going to happen? You're going from blood pressure that's lower to higher, and I'm waiting. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that in the future, where they may make it to the weigh-in, they're fine, and then something happens, after the fact. That their body does a complete reverse because their body has been starved, and all of a sudden you're reintroducing things to it. Stefan Struve, I wonder if that had any. I'd be interested, especially with his heart condition.
Does he
I'd
cut
be a
weight?
little bit interested to see how his weight cut went. If he had to cut weight at all, I don't think he did, but you never know.
He's pretty big.
I
He may
mean,
have to.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. If he had to cut weight and then he reintroduced all that stuff, look what happened the day of the fight.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's human. It's basic physiology. When you're doing something in your body, it corrects itself, and human body can only take so much. So I don't know. Unfortunately, I think we're not even out of the woods of this. This may be the biggest problem that MMA hasn't really. You know how I said they were doing a good job for concussions. The weight cutting thing, I think they need to do more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're just really fucking lucky that they only fight 3 or 4 times a year.
Sure.
Because obviously, like in collegiate wrestling, where they're fighting so much more often, they have a lot more shorter notice, and so much more frequency with this weight cutting. I mean, we saw recently with Chaz Skelly, and he entered into his second fight with 2 weight cuts, and he was fucked. I mean, congratulations on his strength getting through that, but his cardio was just not there. Like 2 weight cuts killed this guy.
Right.
So, and that kind of stuff, what it takes out of you must be like fucking dreadful. I just really hope fighters kind of wise up and they value the cardio advantage and the health advantage and the energy advantage over just like, you know, the misery of weight cutting.
Right. And
like that slight size advantage.
Yeah.
There's smarter ways of doing it too. I mean, is it really? I mean, I don't know. I'm not them either. I understand, you know, you're walking around higher weight, but you're in training camp and you know when your fight is. Take it down. I'm not saying to drop the weight right away, but slowly decrease it. That's the only safe way to do it. If you slowly decrease your weight, if you need to cut weight, you know. And then there's some people that don't give a shit. Mr. Lineker,
Yeah.
example. I love him, by the way. But you know, it's tough. It's tough. I definitely see an art to it, and a science to it. But again, some fighters have no problems making it, and some fighters have the right nutrition throughout camp. And there's ways to do it. I mean, that's the thing. Get a proper nutritionist. Talk to your physician. You know, it's not that difficult if you set out in the right path. And a lot of these training camps, you know, they're focusing so much on techniques and increasing power and, you know, their cardio and all that. Nutrition is a huge part for it. So you don't have to decrease your strength with losing that weight. It's, you know, but easier said than done, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think I'd value the psychological advantage of not having to cut weight. What I'd really want to do is like have my opponent cut so much weight and me just like walk up to the scales with a sandwich and like munching on it, and during the stare down just
right.
like yeah.
Right.
That's what I've always wanted to do. I probably should do that at one point.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll go in and weigh in at a middleweight or something.
There was that one guy. I don't know if you remember. It wasn't that long ago. He had a bag of chips.
Oh yeah.
He had the bag, and he offered it to his opponent, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
So I think he was eating the chips as he was on the scale too.
Excellent.
What a beast.
That's a good plan.
So more of that, guys. More of that. More fighters eating on the scales.
And more speed
Absolutely.
advantage. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you look at Frankie Edgar. His drop to featherweight has not really worked at all because he's lost his speed advantage.
Well, he's been kicking ass at featherweight.
Yeah, obviously. But, like, I think he was better at lightweight just because when he fought guys who were bigger than him, his footwork was so good, he could just get in and get out. But against some of the smaller guys who are as quick as him, he finds it a little bit harder to get in and get back out.
Right.
So there probably are cases where people are better at higher weight classes.
Would you guys be in favor of doing, like, would you like say, this would be a pain in the ass though, maybe it wouldn't work, but even increasing the weight classes like give them that extra couple of pounds, or no?
What, as in like weight classes, more weight classes, like some in between?
But then where do you draw the line?
You
with
dilute
that?
the brand, though.
I mean,
Then it's just like
talk
boxing.
about- boxing has 10,000 weight classes, I think. So
Yeah.
it's like it's
Too
kind
many
of tough to
champions.
do it that way. But just even, I don't know, maybe giving that leeway of a couple pounds. I don't know.
Well, they do. You just have to
maybe,
give up your
yeah.
fight purse.
So
I mean, you can
um,
fight overweight. You just have to give up 20% of your fight purse.
yeah,
I mean, if you choose to come in at 158, you can. It's just the UFC will say
Right.
you're unprofessional and get rid of you.
that's true.
So, I mean, it's a complicated issue. But, I mean,
Right.
yeah, it's one of them things. I mean, I think the best idea I've heard is doing the Monday weigh-in. But, I mean, then you worry about fights being cancelled.
Right.
But at least that gives you 6 days, rather than
Yes.
someone falling over on the scales and having to get a guy from the undercard.
Right. I mean, that would be good. I think, like I said, and I know they're being tested by the physicians and everything, but I think
Combine it with drug
I think
testing, too.
I think they need to do that. I think there needs to be a physician in there, and actually, and the physician especially, it should not be a camp physician. It should be a commissioned physician.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
And,
100%.
and so they're not, although they could be bought too. But you get somebody that's non-biased, that's not on anybody's payroll, comes in, and I would say, in the fight camp, maybe come in even 30 days before. 30 days before, see how he is, and then maybe 2 weeks before, and just do a quick vitals. I'm not saying draw blood and all that stuff. Maybe one of the times.
Well, combine it with drug testing.
Yes, you could combine it with drug testing and do it, and just check him, and then it's the doctor's call. The doctor could call the fight, and he said, "Listen, you know what? We don't like where this is going. Your potassium's too low. Your sodium's too low. Risk of a stroke. You're suspended, flat out."
Mhm.
And that's
I'd
it.
be behind that.
And there you go. And that would save. I mean, yes, it would piss people off, but it would save a life.
Yeah, and there's so many UFC
Just with the-
cards. It doesn't really matter. You can just come back in another couple of weeks and fight on the UFC card in another couple of weeks. It's no big deal.
Right, exactly.
Just change your
Yeah.
weight cut philosophy and come back in a month. Keep your fight
Right.
camp going. Just keep it rolling
Right.
over and then come back later because there'll be someone else who fails their weight cut test on another card and you can come in.
Right. There you go.
There
And
you go.
hopefully with these regulations in place, they'll be taking it more seriously and obviously cutting less weight.
And taking
Sure.
less drugs, which will make everyone smaller.
Yep.
Right.
And also, like, they'd really need to sort out Nova Earnyao as well, because
Yeah.
they get guys with weight cutting problems so frequently. Like, if you look at them on the Brazilian scene, and not to mention, like, Jose Aldo's always had trouble with weight cutting, and obviously with Renan Barão recently. And wasn't the guy in Brazil who died?
Yeah, he was Nova and Yao as well, yeah.
Yeah, he's Nova Earnyao. So something's going on in that fucking camp.
Yeah,
and
he's
they
being
really
stubborn
need to
now. Andre
sort it out.
Pedernera is being very stubborn about it.
Twat.
Yeah, it's a problem. It really is.
And
People
I
need to
wonder-
challenge him.
And
Second.
I wonder out there if like I said, the diuretic that he was taking, Lasix, I bet it's probably not. It's probably illegal.
Yeah,
I mean,
Barão and
here
Aldo
it's-
take it
it's
too.
definitely not, but because people are probably saying, well, it's a medication that people use for blood pressure. Well, it doesn't make it legal. There's so many medications that are prescriptions that are not legal,
Mhm.
because of their performance enhancing capabilities. So, yeah, that's definitely something that needs to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping so too. Anyway, anybody got more to say on the whole weight
I
cutting
have
issue?
one more question.
Yep.
Tony, in terms of what people talk about in pro wrestling, because there's all these deaths in pro wrestling. A lot of people talk about how painkillers don't work well with steroids. Is there kind of a thing? Because I know painkillers can have effects on the renal system and stuff like this. Might not be the renal system; it's one of the systems. Is there a danger of, because I know painkillers are obviously very prevalent in MMA? Is there a danger of diuretics and painkillers becoming a cocktail that we don't want?
Well, I mean, as far as drug interactions, no. The painkillers, depending on the painkiller it is, I mean, most of these, we're talking Vicodin and OxyContin,
Mhm.
is primarily metabolized through the liver. So, you're getting issues with that, with liver toxicity. As far as, and again, these diuretics are through the kidneys.
So it's a different
So-
system then.
I mean, yeah, different system, but yeah, I mean, you're taxing your body.
How about steroids? How about PEDs and diuretics? Are there any sort of combinations between them that could be dangerous?
That'll be something I could research. That is a good question. As far from my experience, education, no, the combo should not. However, that's something I could research for next time as well. Yeah. Again, different systems. The steroids, any anabolic steroids are through your liver as well. So painkillers and steroids, yes.
Okay, that's why they're a problem.
Yeah, painkillers, steroids, and massive amounts of protein. Yeah, you're going to have liver failure.
Well, that's why wrestlers always die.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, liver failure, not to mention taxing on your heart. I mean, all these people have to understand all these drugs go through your blood system, and your blood travels everywhere. So that's why they're getting heart attacks and everything like that. I mean, obviously, steroids are going to affect just about every organ in your body. Like I said, the diuretics, kidneys, the painkillers primarily through your liver. But again, the liver, what's the liver do? The liver rids your body of toxins. So not only are you're disrupting that, so now anything you ingest is considered a toxin. So technically, I could see it, just hypothesizing right now, yes, it could be a problem if you take diuretics and painkillers, because if you're taking your painkillers, you ruin your liver. Your diuretics, anytime you put a medication in your body, it's perceived as a foreign substance, and the body wants to get rid of it. While, yes, it goes through your renal system, there's going to be parts of it, some metabolites that are filtering your body. Where do you think those are going to go? They're eventually going to go to the liver, and the liver's going to clean it and get rid of it. Mm-hmm. So, yes, there's very little, but over time, it's going to add up. So while it may get excreted through your kidneys, some of those waste particles have to be cleaned up and flushed. And where are they going to flush except going through your bladder, which has to go from your kidneys. Yeah. So okay. Yeah, there's big issues with that. Yes.
Okay. And is marijuana a problem?
Marijuana is never a problem.
Just wanted to make that abundantly clear.